Hello viewers, welcome to my channel. I'm Hasham. In this video, I'm going to explain you about the residential status of Hindu undivided family, residential status of partnership firm, a joint stock company, an association of persons, and every other person. Last video I have completed the discussion on how to determine the residential status of an individual. So if you have not watched the last video, I suggest you to go to the playlist of my channel. Select the subject income tax for the assessment year 21-22. Watch the first part 1 theory on residential status. Be clear about how to determine the residential status of an individual. In examination, frequently they will ask a theory question regarding explain the provisions regarding determination of residential status. For every previous year, the assessee's residential status have to be determined. Because by finding out the residential status, we can find out the scope of income. Which income to be included, which income not to be included depends on the residential status. Now in this video, I'm going to explain you about HUF, residential status of HUF. So before explaining in detail, take a screenshot of the points which I have written on the board, then I'll explain. So residential status of Hindu undivided family. According to the provisions of Income Tax Act, the persons regarding the calculation of residential status are individual, HUF, partnership firm, joint stock company, association of person, and every other person. So now Hindu undivided family is also one of the person according to the Income Tax Act. The head of the HUF is called the Karta. The Karta is liable to pay tax on the HUF. The other co-partners, the other members of the HUF need not pay the tax on the income from HUF. They are liable to pay tax on their individual income, not from the income of HUF. So here, however, they are liable to pay tax on their individual income. For determining the residential status of HUF, the place of control and management of its affairs are the deciding factor. In order to find out the residential status of HUF, we have to see the control and management of its affairs. That is the deciding factor regarding the residential status. From where the HUF is being controlled and managed, that is the deciding factor. So a HUF is said to be resident in India if the control and management of its affairs is wholly or partly situated in India. A HUF is called resident in India if the control and management of its affairs are wholly in India or partly in India and partly outside India, then it is called resident HUF. So when the HUF will be called non-resident HUF, if the control and management of the affairs is completely outside India. Completely outside India. Actually, who will manage, who will control the affairs of HUF? Karta. Sometimes the Karta will delegate the authority to a senior most person. He will be called manager. So the HUF will be controlled either by the Karta or the manager, right? If the control and management of HUF is completely outside India, it is called non-resident HUF. Now, for determining the residential status of HUF, there are two sets of conditions, basic conditions and additional conditions, just like individuals. Like individuals, we have two sets of conditions. So first of all, basic condition. A HUF is said to be resident in India if control and management of its affairs are wholly or partly situated in India. Just now I told you, if the control and management are wholly in India or partly in India and partly outside India, HUF is called resident HUF. That is the first basic condition. If the control and management of its affairs are wholly outside India, then the HUF will be treated as non-resident. So easily we can determine the HUF is resident HUF or non-resident HUF. Then additional conditions. Again, two additional conditions are there. The additional conditions are same what we have seen in individuals. But these additional conditions must be satisfied by Karta. If the affairs are controlled by manager, then manager has to satisfy the additional conditions. Same additional conditions. The Karta or manager of HUF has been resident in India in at least 2 out of 10 previous years preceding the relevant previous year. Our relevant previous year is 2020-21. Assessment year is 21-22. The previous year 2021, before 2021, 10 years you go back. In those 10 years, at least 2 years, minimum 2 years, the Karta or manager should be resident in India. Secondly, he has been in India for a period of 730 days or more during 7 years preceding the current previous year. The Karta or the manager must stay in India for a period of 730 days or more during 7 years period preceding the relevant previous year. The relevant previous year is 2021. So before 2021, go back to 7 years. In those 7 years, he should stay in India for 730 days. So these two conditions are simultaneously should be satisfied by Karta or manager. So from residential status point of view, a HUF may be ordinary resident, not ordinary resident or non-resident, just like individuals. Individuals, we have 3 status. HUF is also having 3 status. Ordinary resident HUF, not ordinarily resident HUF or non-resident HUF. Now finally, if Karta or manager satisfies the basic condition and also 2 additional conditions, then HUF is considered as resident and ordinary resident. Suppose the HUF satisfies the first basic condition. Only one basic condition is there. If the control and management is wholly in India or partly in India, partly outside India, it is a resident. If the control and management is completely outside India, it is non-resident. So if HUF satisfies the first basic condition and Karta satisfied the additional 2 conditions, then that HUF is called ordinary resident HUF. First thing. Second, if the Karta or manager satisfies the basic condition and none of the additional conditions, then HUF is considered as resident but not ordinary resident. The HUF satisfies the basic condition, but Karta has not satisfied the additional conditions. Basic condition satisfied, additional condition not satisfied. Then this HUF is called resident but not ordinary resident. Last one, if Karta does not satisfy the basic condition, then HUF is called non-resident. Basic condition itself not satisfied. That means the control and management is completely outside India. It is called non-resident. Once it is non-resident, no need to go for additional conditions. That's it. So these are the provisions regarding residential status of HUF. Now residential status of a firm, partnership firm. How to find out? Residential status of partnership firm may be resident or non-resident. Firm may be resident or non-resident. We don't have 3 types. We have only 2 types. A resident firm or a non-resident firm. So from the residential point of view, a firm may be resident or non-resident. We don't have ordinary, not ordinary. We don't have. Only resident and non-resident. A partnership firm is said to be resident in India if control and management are partly or wholly situated within India during the previous year. So Income Tax Act says, if the control and management of affairs of the partnership firm is wholly in India or partly in India and partly outside India, then this partnership firm is called resident during the current previous year. If the control and management of the partnership firm is completely outside India during the previous year, then the partnership firm will be called non-resident. So again, control and management of affairs, that is a deciding factor. Control, management of affairs is the deciding factor to decide whether firm is resident or non-resident. If control and management is completely outside India, non-resident partnership firm. If control and management is wholly in India or partly in India, partly outside India, it's a resident. That's it. Now, company. Residential status of a company. Now, a company which is incorporated under the Companies Act 2013, known as Indian company. Indian company is always treated as resident company. Any company which is incorporated under the Companies Act 2013 or any law in India, it is called Indian company. and all Indian companies are resident companies. All Indian companies. Now, for residential status part of a company may be resident or non-resident, just like firm. Just like firm, a company may be resident or a company may be non-resident. Now, a foreign company shall be treated as resident in India if the business of the company is wholly controlled and managed in India. Here the rule is different. A foreign company means a company which is incorporated outside India. But if the company is wholly, completely managed in India, controlled and managed completely in India, then only it will be called resident company. If the control and management is wholly outside India or partly in India and partly outside India, it is called non-resident company. So, for resident companies, it is compulsory that control and management must be completely in India, then only resident. If it is wholly outside India or partly in India and partly outside India, it is non-resident for companies. But Indian companies are always resident. Now, residential status of AOP, Association of Persons. The example of association of persons are cooperative societies, clubs, charitable institutions, etc. From the residential status of AOP may be resident or non-resident, just like the previous. Firm. Just like the partnership firm, the association of persons may be resident or it may be non-resident. The deciding factor is same, just like partnership firm. It says the control and management of AOP. If it is wholly in India or partly in India, partly outside India, it's a resident AOP. If the control and management of AOP is completely outside India, it is called non-resident AOP. That's it. Last one is residential status of every other person. So every other person includes local authority, artificial juridical person, etc. Again, control and management is the deciding factor. Deciding factor. If the control and management is completely in India or partly in India, partly outside India, it is resident AOP. It is resident every other person. If the control and management is completely outside India, it is non-resident. That's all. These are the provisions regarding residential status. So in 2 videos, I have completed the theory part of determination of residential status. It is given under section 6 of the Income Tax Act 1961. So inshallah, in the next video, I'll start the problems on residential status.